All right, Mr. Andrew Erb, lender extraordinaire. How are we doing today?
I'm fantastic, sir. How are you?
I'm having a great day. I got no complaints. It's Friday the 13th, and
Yeah.
when you have a listing go live, it's always a good Friday. Can't complain.
I love your spooky pictures. They're super cool. Something to stick out from the crowd. Nicely done.
We got a lot of attention on those posts, and I thought, my name's Jason. It's Friday the 13th. My seller is a really good friend and has an amazing sense of humor. And I thought, hey man, I'm gonna go to Party City and pick something up for us. So I picked up 4 of those masks, thinking that we would have like a whole family photo shoot of his family, like waving.
Uh-huh.
But his wife and 2 kids ended up, leaving the house to get out while we were doing our photos. But it was pretty entertaining, and people loved it on the gram. So it's fun.
It's set up very nicely. So well played.
Well, thanks, man. Well, thanks for taking a few minutes to chat with me. Ultimately, this market is just, the media is just screaming gloom and doom. And you and I both know that there is still quite a bit of real estate happening at a slower velocity. We're down 23% total closed transactions year to date as of September, but there is a tremendous amount of opportunity, it seems. And we've had some conversations around this, so I'm glad we're actually just kind of hitting the record button and talking a little bit about it.
Yeah, I think it's brilliant. There are definitely opportunities, and you use that word. I use that word all the time right now, especially when we're framing it up against where we were, which we can't go backwards, right? Some people might like to, some people won't like to.
But where we were, as in, high 2s, low 3 interest rates.
Yeah, let's just talk about interest rates and put them in a bubble, right? If we just talk about interest rates as the deciding factor about whether or not real estate's a good opportunity right now, the answer would be no, and the media would be correct. That's a thing, right? However, if we look at it holistically and take it out of the bubble, there is opportunity here. And I've had conversations with many people, including yourself, about what is that opportunity and what's the cost for that opportunity. Because every opportunity has a cost, right? A few years ago, you had the opportunity to get a 3% mortgage. Awesome. If that's the end of the story, it sounds great. What was the cost for that? Well, the cost was significant right up front, right? We were seeing 5 or 10% over list price offers, full cash guarantees, no inspection, hard earnest money. The cost was real. Let's not forget about that portion of it if we look backwards.
I mean, we were talking like 15 offers in 48 hours. It was absolutely bananas.
Correct. And you're purchasing a home without any negotiation power, right? So fast forward to today, right? Where are we at? What's the story? We're in the mid to high 7s. We're talking about, properties sitting on the market for a little bit. It's not an absolute frenzy and a seller's market like we saw then. So what's the opportunity? The opportunity is buy real estate for what it's worth, right? Have the opportunity to negotiate with the seller, have the opportunity to do an inspection on this home you're buying, have an opportunity to ask for some concessions from the seller to make everything work.
Yeah.
A lot of opportunity. What's the cost? The cost is elevated interest rates.
Right.
Yeah. However, the continued opportunity is, well, we know that the market is inflated right now, and we can show people, assuming that they're willing to listen to the facts, that the elevated interest rates will come down. Exactly when they will come down, we don't know that. So let's just bank on it being 2 years or 3 years or whatever we decide as individuals to illustrate the cost of the opportunity.
Right.
That's where I'm at with this. And, we can be really pessimistic or optimistic about when rates fall. That's fine. But we have some tools to help buyers or people who are in the market to buy really understand what it's going to look like. And that's where working with somebody like yourself and taking the extra time to educate buyers and clients is critical. And that's why we do stuff like this.
And in my sales meetings within the Compass Denver brokerage, and my email inbox is absolutely flooded with, hey, sellers are very excited to offer your clients a huge concession to make your interest rate or your payment more palatable for the first couple of years. Like, come on and take a look at this house. I mean, they're practically rolling the red carpet out and saying, please, God, come into our house and take a look because it's really nice. And some buyers are really excited about this opportunity, while many are just saying, nope, not going to do that. And, there's a lot of hypotheticals in real estate, right? And we like to make educated decisions based in past trends in order to project what is probably going to happen. And everybody knows lower interest rate means more buyers in the market, which means more competition, which equates to more of a frenzied multiple offer bidding war scenario. So it's this spectrum of this swinging pendulum, if you will, of how much leverage do you want and how much interest are you going to pay? But the cost, like you're saying, falls somewhere in that spectrum. So right now it's quite a high interest rate environment, yet you have the opportunity to ask the sellers for way more at inspection, maybe even have the sellers, buy down your interest rate and temporarily, pay some of your interest to make your payment more palatable. But then you think to yourself, okay, well, maybe the person who's renting right now says, yeah, but if rates don't come down, I'm stuck with this high payment. And so let's think about that for a second. So if I'm a renter, and let's just say arbitrary month here, my lease is up in February 2024. I'm starting to think about it. It's Q4, it's October of 23. Maybe we should start getting our ducks in a row. I don't really know how to, approach this. Like, what do you say to that person who's considering it, but on the fence?
Well, there's a couple different things to chat through, right? And this is all a discussion. So it's not like, we're going to start hammering you and beating you up over making a good decision. What we're here to do is help you make a good decision based on facts, trends, the likelihood of what's going to happen moving forward, as well as looking backwards to see those trends, right? So to your point, what are we going to see when the market interest rates drop? We had a perfect test case last December, right? Interest rates dropped from about 7% on a 30-year loan to just about 6.5%, maybe a hair under that.
Yep.
It gave us exactly 3 weeks of 2021. The rates went back up and it stopped. But we had 3 weeks there where there were offers being made. This is in the dead of winter in Colorado.
Right.
Offers were being made, automatic 5%, sometimes up to 10% was what I was seeing, over list price, waiving inspection, hard earnest money, no negotiation power.
I remember. Yep.
It came, it was there for 3 weeks, and it went away. So for a test case to look backwards and say, what's going to happen when the rates do start to come down? We know what's going to happen.
Right.
This buyer pool has been building and building and building for quite some time now, every bit of a year, maybe a little longer. And the pool's crowded, right?
Right.
And once people see others start to get out, whatever that trigger point is with regard to interest rate, once people start seeing others get out and go after the market again, it is going to be a flood of people crawling out of this pool.
Right.
And now we're back to the situation where, awesome, that house that you're looking at today, it's been on the market for 3 weeks, and the listing agent says they got a couple offers coming in. You've got some negotiation power.
Totally.
When all these people come out of the pool, that's not going to be the case, because there's going to be this frenzy of trying not to miss the mark again, and it will be a little bit nutty.
Yeah.
Back to your question, though, about a renter and they've got their lease coming up in the next few months. I think one of the questions is, are we feeling like what we anticipate, rates coming down in the future, let's say in the next year to 2 years to 3 years, or do you think that this is it? It's only going to get worse from here. And if you think it's going to get worse from here,
let's go.
Let's go. So I've heard this question asked a few different ways. what if they continue to get worse? Well, if they continue to get worse, and we are talking about 10% in 2 years, then people who take 7.5% or 8% or whatever it is today are going to be doing the same dance that people are doing right now who have 3%.
Now,
right?
here's the piece of that is going to be the counter, where most people's brains automatically go to, yeah, but what if values fall and I'm going to be able to get a deal at a higher interest rate because there's this real estate fallout?
Yes. And the question there comes down to, simply supply and demand.
Right.
And really, I always encourage people to talk about real estate in the real world that they live in, right? So it doesn't matter to me what's going on in Manhattan, New York, or Manhattan, Kansas. It matters to me what's going on in Colorado, right? And in today's market, that's even more pinpointed. The real estate market is down to the neighborhoods right now.
Right.
Some properties are sitting on the market. You go the other side of town, they're flying off the market. Days.
You could not be more correct in that. I had a listing up in Central Park, Beeler Park, the north side of I-70, Northfield area, and we hit 120 days and we just withdrew it. We're like, you know what, this isn't happening. Meanwhile, in Highlands Ranch, we were off the market in 48 hours with multiple offers over list price, and it was the most crazy busy open house I've had in 2023. And those happened within 10 days of each other.
Yeah.
And it's so bonkers. So we can't make these like really broad strokes of, well, this is how it all is. It is really a unique based on geography, based on the home's condition, based on the price point.
Yeah.
It's pretty interesting.
Everything's a little bit different right now. You can't make these big statements and think that you're going to nail it. I tell people all the time, I don't like to send out, these big numbers, projections, and here's what it is, because every little thing is different for every single unique situation.
Right.
When I first got in this business, somebody told me all mortgages are like snowflakes. Everyone is unique. And I'm like, oh, okay. Maybe not. But the point is made, right? Like every single listing is different and everyone's personal situation is different. And so we want to cater to them and make sure that we're giving them everything they need to make a good decision for themselves. So what's going to happen? We see rates coming down in the future. What is that going to mean? The farther they go, the more people exiting that pool is going to be reality. So can you acquire the real estate and take advantage of the opportunity at a cost that you're comfortable with in order to beat everybody else out of the pool? What's that going to mean for you? Fast forward a year or two and more people start coming out of that pool. What's going to happen when there's more demand? Prices are going to go up.
You're asking me. Yeah, of course. Prices go up. Yeah, no doubt about it.
If we beat everybody out of the pool and we pay that opportunity cost of an elevated interest rate and therefore an elevated monthly payment, a little punch in the gut every 30 days, that's okay as long as it makes sense. Because when we see the prices start to go back up significantly as more and more people come back into the market, there's not going to be a lot more supply, right? How do we fix supply right now?
Build more houses.
Build more houses. You know who's in control of that? Our friendly builders. You know what they are? Absolute capitalists. Why would they open floodgates, which is impossible for them to do anyway because of other constrictions, building, labor, everything. But why would they open the floodgates just to be nice to everybody else? They're in business.
Why shrink your margin across the board? Why, control the supply, control the margin.
Yeah. So totally. They're going to trickle new doors into the market, but based on their own business model, not based on the fact that you and I are like, hey, we got buyers, you got a house. No, it's not how it's going to work.
To your point, every new build community that I have stepped foot on this year, which hasn't been a ton, it's been probably 5 different communities, some up north, Frederick, Firestone, and others in like Castle Rock. Every single one of them have been like, hey, yeah, welcome in. We'd love to have you. We have 3 lots and 2 of them are, we have bids out that could be signed today. And you're like, what are you talking about? Like these things haven't even broken ground yet. They're like, oh, we know. Yep. So, and then meanwhile, there's, a line of people trying to talk to a sales rep. it's pretty bananas in that front. But what's interesting is, some of those builders, they're really working hard. By the way, they are actually paying a commission to buyer's agents again for the first time in a while. And they're offering some pretty aggressive incentives to get people in with this high interest rate to try to stand out, which is pretty fascinating. But not to go down like a new build rabbit hole, I do want to kind of back up for a second and talk for a moment about, this whole, well, where are prices going and where have they gone? And, the stats for September's data just came out. And I mean, today's October 13th. It takes a little while. So at the end of September, I'm reading here. This is from Megan Aller with First American Title. She just released this yesterday. We had both average and median sold prices are up from September of 22. Average is up 2.8%, and the median is also up by 1.2%. So for all intents and purposes, that's, it's marginal. It's not huge. We saw 20% appreciation in 2020 and 21. Those were outlier years, obviously. So all things considered, if you have the opportunity to get in without competition and ask the seller for money back in the form of a concession, it seems like if you can stomach the current environment, you should proceed. But if it makes you lose sleep at night, just hit pause and wait and hope that it's not too hot when you get back in. Is that what you're kind of in agreement on? What do you think?
I think that's pretty accurate. Yeah. Again, there's a cost to everything. And right now the cost is in the form of an elevated monthly payment due to higher interest rates.
Right.
That's great, right?
Yeah.
Let's say you're buying a $700,000 house back in 2021. Plenty of action there. These are the homes in 2021 that if you took somebody out on a Friday because the listing hit the market Thursday night, what was your advice for these folks, assuming that they love the house and their position on the way out the door of showing was, we want to buy that house? What was the next conversation with regard to writing the offer?
Honestly, the next conversation was, I kid you not, a selfie video with my clients and I to the listing agent. Hey, listing agent, we just finished showing your house. We love it. Oh my God, we absolutely love it. We are super stoked. We're going to have an offer into you by 2 hours from now. Can't wait to hear back. And I actually did that a few times, and it did win some rapport, in the upper end of the rapport scale. And it was very much like, hey, what do we got to do to win this thing? And sometimes it meant appraisal gaps, actually always appraisal gaps. Sometimes it meant escalation clauses, depending on how close the cards were to the chest of the listing agent. We did a lot of deals, you and I together, with clients and it was highly competitive in those situations. So
yeah, and I tell people that looking back on that, it became the norm to waive all of the inspections and contingencies and get rid of those, because other people were doing the same.
Right.
And if you wanted to be in consideration to win the offer, you had to do that. And then on top of that, we're putting 5%, sometimes 10%, who knows, right, above the list price, and covering that dollar for dollar if the appraisal wasn't able to get there, right?
That's true.
Wow. That became the norm, and we became completely comfortable with it. As professionals in the real estate world, you and I, as buyers in Metro Denver, Colorado, wherever you were, became very conditioned to that. That was the requirement.
Right.
To me, the cost of that is you can't recoup that, right? It's all up front, and it's a huge shot in the gut. What we're talking about now is different. It feels different. When you step back from it and actually, absorb the numbers and take some time to understand it, it's not all that much different. It's just in the form of a 30-day dose of that, right? With your mortgage payment moving forwards until you have the opportunity to refinance. Now that's for the folks who believe that interest rates are going to come down, right? That's what they have to understand, whether they want to be super aggressive with the rate drop looking forward, or if they want to say, nah, I think it's going to be a slow trickle. That's fine. We can set it up and show you either way. The flip side to that is folks who think that the market is going to continue to go up for mortgage rates.
Right.
Different conversation.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if you were able to go backwards and say, I'm going to buy real estate 2 years ago when rates were in the threes without the competition, would you go back and do it? Well, the answer would be, of course.
Yeah, in the threes without competition. You kidding me? Yeah. Come on.
So, if you think that's the case, and you're certainly confident, hindsight being 2020, that you would take a 3% mortgage rate to purchase that real estate 2 years ago, knowing that rates are going up. Well, if you're in the camp of rates are going to continue to go up, do yourself a favor and take your own advice. Right? Rates are going up. Get in now before it gets worse.
Right.
Because appreciation, or the value of homes, the cost of homes for a buyer,
sure,
although there may be some waves, they're going to continue to rise as well. The supply and demand dictates that, and also demographics dictates this.
Yeah.
Right? Young folks like yourself, I'm an old fart, but young folks like yourself are in their prime buying years, right? Household formations around 34 years old. Guess what? There's this there's this massive population of people that are coming into that age group right now.
That's true.
So just sheer numbers of people wanting to do that is likely to continue for probably the next 8 to 10 years.
Sure. Yeah, people want houses, no question. And what is kind of the cost analysis exercise that you may go through with people? Because what I'm thinking about is, okay, if I'm having a conversation with somebody who was like, hey, I think I want to buy a house. I'm not so sure. I know we kind of touched on this, but at the end of the day, like, I think taking your rent, multiply it by 12 months or 24 months or 36 months, however long you think you want to be renting for, let's take that cost and just understand that money's gone forever. And then, are you able to sustain a higher monthly living expense? Because there's really no scenario in which a mortgage will cost less than rent for like the same quality of home in the Denver area right now. So
correct.
If you can handle that rent, over that same 24, 36 month window, what is your net worth at the end of that run? And that seems to be the exercise with my clients where the light bulb just like flips on. They're like, this is a no brainer. I have to do this to be in a better position down the road. Even if rates go up, even if rates go down, buying is always better than renting. And by the way, I don't want to demonize renting, which so many real estate professionals do. There's a time and a place where it is necessary. I did it for well over a decade. Most people do, and that's fine. But when the opportunity comes to make a purchase and you're not going to be so house poor you can't go home for the holidays, it seems like the right answer is proceed with confidence.
Yeah, and really what you're getting at is what I call the cost of waiting. Right? And it's not necessarily so cut and dry that you can paint this, again, to your term, with a broad stroke, right? Mm-hmm. I'm sure you've seen the National Association of Realtors come out with this article a few weeks ago, and it finally caught on to the news things a week or so ago, where they're saying 47 out of the top 50 metros, it's less expensive to rent than to own. Mm-hmm. As if making a broad statement that that's a better situation. This is the national
less expensive. Like what is the terms in which we're assessing that? Which
is super unique, right? In a bubble, absolutely. Of course, if your rent payment is less than your mortgage payment, that's what they're saying. That's a fact, right? 47 out of 50. So 94% of the places in America, that's a fact. However, what we don't do, and what the cost of waiting analysis is used for, is to say, yes, but let's look at the whole thing, the whole picture, not just monthly payment. What are you passing up by not moving forward, should you have the ability to your point? And what
we have these appreciation numbers. Sorry to interrupt, but then we have like, okay, we're up average is up 2.8% from this time last year. Median is up 1.2%. So we're still seeing slow incremental gains of appreciation. And this is in a time when people are scared to do anything in real estate, it seems like. Yet appreciation is still going north. So what do you, I mean, it seems like a no-brainer to me. We just need to convey it in a way that doesn't sound self-serving.
Correct. And so we saw, a lot of areas nationally, we saw some dips, right? Where month to month, we were seeing some declines in prices.
Yeah.
And, the skeptics will say, well, here we go. This is the start of a crash. Whereas, people who follow this stuff and want to give you the whole picture say, there's some seasonality to this, happens every year. And check this out. All of a sudden, we've started to come back up, and we've now eclipsed, as of last month, all-time highs in terms of prices, meaning appreciation of real estate, that we lost a little bit on over the last year. So guess what? We bounced back. The projections are back to something that's healthy and steady in the 4s and 5s in most areas. And those are the numbers that we'll use when we talk about what's the actual cost of passing on the opportunity. Yeah. So, we'll figure it out. What if we waited 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years, and where do we think the rates will be? But the moral of the story, and we've cut this up between you and I, there's a scenario on a property that you had listed that we did the cost of waiting analysis. And let's just say that rates go, in 2 years, and that's our waiting point, that rates go down to 6%, right? So they drop 1.5 points or so. All of a sudden, it seems, if we look at it in a bubble, yes, let's wait because we're going to get 6%. But what do we pass up by not doing this? Well, guess what? There is appreciation of the home, right? The equity that you're going to build over those 2 years. And based on projections, that equates in this scenario for your house, which was an $820,000 listing.
Right.
That equates to your loss of appreciation would be just under $88,000, about 10% over 2 years. That's the forecast. And then also during that 2-year time, you create additional equity by paying down your mortgage, or what we call the amortization of your loan, to the tune of just over $14,000. So by waiting until 6% hits in 2 years, you've cost yourself $102,051.
Right. That's another household salary.
That's not $1,000 or $10,000 or $20,000. That's $100,000, right?
Right.
Is there some sort of pain associated with that? Absolutely, right?
Yeah.
Because let's just say you did this today and we take out a loan at 7.5%. You've got an elevated payment for the next few years.
Right.
But guess what? That's why they created a long time ago something called the refinance, right? And so we keep an eye on this stuff moving forward. And at some point, as rates continue to go down, you're going to hit a trigger point. Everybody's is different, right? But at some point, we're going to have a conversation and say, hey, right now we can do this refi, and it's going to save you $200, $300, $400, $500 a month. Do you want to move forward? And at some point, you're going to say, as the buyer and the homeowner at that point, yes, that meets my threshold. Let's go. Right. Everybody's different there. I learned that 20 some years ago, right? What I think is a lot of money and worth a refinance might not work for you, or vice versa. So everybody's thing is different. Is it possible? Absolutely. Is it probable? Absolutely. Do we want to exercise that choice? At some point, yeah. You're going to exercise that choice and put yourself into a better position.
Right.
The challenge is waiting for 6% in this case. But here's the deal. We're chasing a moving target, right? That $820,000 property in 2 years, it's going for $907.
Yeah, exactly.
And at 6%, $907 with a line out the door on Thursday night when it hits the market, right? The competition at $907 in 2 years is going to be real. It's going to be real. So I always tell people when you buy a house, there's a lot of stuff to try and time, right? One, you want to buy a house. Two, there's a house you want to buy. Three, you qualify to buy it. And then the fourth one, a lot of people got caught up in for a long time, which is, Oh, and I also want the interest rate market to be perfect too.
Right. Oh, and I also have to time that with my lease ending as well.
Those first three are hard enough, right?
Right.
Give yourself some grace and understand that if you can get those three things to line up and you can get a house that you want to live in under contract and you buy it, take a breath, live in that home for a little while, sit back, sip on an iced tea on the porch, watch the values continue to go up, and at some point in the future, we'll have an opportunity to bring that interest rate down.
Yeah.
That's how you time the interest rate market when you're a home owner, not necessarily when you're a home buyer.
Yeah. A good realtor friend of mine, Mike Page, he said to his clients or on social media, he was like, hey, time your life. Don't time the market. And because if you try to time the market, you're going to find yourself waiting. If Warren Buffett can't time the market, chances are I can't either.
Right.
The way I see it.
You know what Warren Buffett did like 40 years ago? Bought the same house. Bought the same house that he lives in right now, I think. You know what? Like, do that. Own real estate. Owning real estate is the first key to timing the real estate market in terms of interest rates.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I always, find value in these conversations, and, I'm always getting a ton of just like insights and thoughts about how to better serve our clients based in data. And, to your point, there's a few assumptions that we're making. And, when you think about a 5% appreciation year over year projection, we should also note that the 35-year average in the Denver metro is a plus 7%. And that also includes the housing crisis, which included a couple of years of minus 10, minus 11. And if we're in this shaky time of real estate and we're still appreciating at 2.3% year over year, average inflation targets are what, 3%, somewhere around that. So we're still pacing right around that point. Of course, inflation has been a mess over the last 12 months, but it's almost under control. So shifting one more question. I know we're coming up at, we're over the 30-minute mark here.
Yeah.
Do we just need to see some bad economic data for rates to come down? I mean, that seems like the right indicator before we actually see a little bit of relief here. What are you thinking on that?
There's a lot of layers to that onion.
Yeah.
However, if we want to keep it super simple, I agree wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
Really, what we're trying to get to from the perspective of the Fed is they're wanting to cause some pain in terms of the job markets, in terms of the overall economic activity. Like, people are still spending, right? Mm-hmm. When people keep spending, it's hard to make inflation stop.
Totally.
Let alone turn around and go backwards.
Yeah.
Right? So what's really happening here is people have figured out a way, and I don't think it's necessarily healthy, but it's happening, a way to continue to live their life like they were over the last few years. And unfortunately, a lot of that has to do with credit. Mm-hmm. Right? And so we're seeing balances on credit cards and lines of credit go up significantly, right? We've stopped seeing what was record savings across America
to record credit debt.
To record credit debt. So that shift has happened. What's the Fed seeing? People are still spending money. So keep the hammer and the thing down. I mean, the amount of Fed rate hikes is unprecedented.
Right.
Understand that what they're doing is they're looking in the rearview mirror at data as opposed to saying, what do we see coming, right? And you listen to what they have to say, and it's always, we're data dependent. Mm-hmm. Starting to be a little bit of shift amongst the Fed voting members right now, but they're always data dependent. And data dependent means we're looking backwards.
Yeah, lagging indicators.
Continue to do this. In my world, we talk often about the Fed will overcook everything, one way or the other, right? They'll go too far one way or the other. So we went way too far with stimulus or quantitative easing. Yeah. The Fed buying mortgage-backed securities and treasuries like crazy for way too long at way too high.
Ignoring interest rate hikes due to COVID. Yeah.
Yes, sir. And now the pendulum has come back now, and we're continuing to go down this path. I suspect that November is the last meeting of the Fed this year, calendar year. I suspect that there's enough pushback that they don't do anything again,
Yeah.
right? We're starting to see these reports that they want, the data dependency is starting to show up that, you know what, maybe we don't need to do it again.
Mm-hmm.
The market's going to take care of itself. And if they can step back from another hike, I think we can start to turn the corner or crest that hill and see things get a little bit better. The real issue with mortgage rates, though, is nobody wants these. Nobody wants to invest in them on Wall Street because they know they're all short term, right? Everybody with big, huge checkbooks that would normally be investing in these things doesn't want them because they know that the market's going to turn around, inflation's going to dip, mortgage rates are going to dip with it. Every one of those loans is going to refi. There is no income potential on these things for the long term.
Right.
So now they just, it's perpetuating itself. That's why rates are so high. They're overinflated. They're overinflated because the margins are too high. That's where we are.
Yeah.
What does it do? Again, if you can sit down and step back from it, it maybe creates an opportunity at a cost, but it may create an opportunity for a lot of people.
Right. I think that's the theme of this conversation today, opportunity at a cost.
Yeah.
And I completely agree with that. And that's going to be really good, dialogue to have with folks, hopefully at my open house tomorrow. I hope it's busy.
Hey, it's going to be busy. I can feel it.
Yeah. Yeah. We got a lot of buzz online about this one. Well, Andrew Erb, thank you so much for your time and your insights. As always, I always enjoy our conversation. So thanks a lot for spending your Friday with me.
Again, sometime soon. You pick the topic. You keep killing it, my friend. And I look forward to seeing you soon.
Right on. Cool, man. Thanks, Andrew.
Take care.